Because the personnel running for president have not presently offered any solution for the problems we are facing as Americans, I am making this video. My name is David Wallace. I am from an average income family. I have been married for 37 years to my wife, Maria, who immigrated here from Spain. After 9/11, my wife purchased an American flag and placed it at our front door. She was working at the Pentagon the morning of 9/11 when the plane struck the building, and she felt the impact of the plane through the building. Through her daily inspections in the area of the impact, she knew most of the victims that were injured or killed that day. I have served the public on the front line as a member of the Boy Scouts, Civil Air Patrol, U.S. Navy, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department, and the U.S. Park Police. I was severely wounded and retired after 14 and a half years of government service. I then served Montgomery County for 17 years as a security officer, housing code inspector, and as a tobacco enforcement officer for the county, until I was disabled with a crippling back injury. So basically, I've served the public most of my life. I am not rich, but I have been noted for my honesty and drive to serve the public. It was my honor and pleasure to serve and protect you as a public servant and a law enforcement officer. My primary role was to try to treat everyone with the same respect due of any member of my family. I am greatly disappointed with our present representation of presidential candidates, and I feel it is necessary to bring to light a few facts that are being ignored. No one has done anything to change this country for the better for over 40 years, and I don't see anyone within the candidacy that seems to know what the major problems in our government are. We as citizens are slowly losing our labor and consumer rights in this country, and government has placed banking and corporate money ahead of anything else. First of all, I'd like to address the purpose of the Agency for International Development, better known as AID. This organization was originally set up to promote the growth of third world countries that needed our help and assistance in developing their own natural resources to raise their level of economy in the world. However, this agency has been used to export our factories to foreign countries at a benefit of corporations owned by the wealthy that reside here. AID uses your tax dollars to pay for these factories to be disassembled and moved out of the United States and lower the corporation's cost of production. This practice has eliminated thousands of jobs that belong to the same Americans that paid the taxes that provided the funds so AID can move these factories. This is actually a theft of your jobs and livelihood. These corporations are using your tax dollars to eliminate the job resources for our citizens and then pay a lower wage to residents of a foreign country. Although this practice is not unlawful, it is highly dishonest and defeats our ability to provide an ongoing employment of our citizens of this country and eliminates a resource for our natural growth. Until we stop this organization from exporting our factories to foreign countries, these profits only benefit a few stockholders and corporate owners in this country. This practice will continue to further destroy the job market in our country unless Congress makes the necessary changes. Candidates may mention preventing these jobs from going overseas, but they will do nothing to stop these practices. And AID keeps promoting the same old program to move these factories overseas at a cost to all of us. Now Oreo cookies that used to be as American as apple pie will now be made in Mexico. Every time that AID moves one of these factories, we lose in a minimum of 4 ways. First, loss of income taxes paid by these corporations and their employees. Second, government then wants to raise your taxes to make up for the loss in tax revenue that was created when these factories were moved overseas. Our gross national production is lowered as we lose the exportation of these products from our country. Fourth, employees' incomes are now lost in this country and will be spent abroad and lost to our national income. I believe that aid should exist to help these countries develop their own resources and should not be engaged in the exportation of our own factories that provide our citizens with jobs here in this country. We need to sell our products abroad, but we are being forced to purchase our own products abroad from these now new foreign sources. We import more products from China than any other nation, and then we borrow money from them from the profits they made from exporting their products sent to us. This increases our national debt even more. Did you know that the steel used to build many of the buildings is now coming from China? The Truth in Lending Law. The Truth in Lending Law was enacted on May 29, 1968, and the last revision to this law was made on June 2013. This law was basically passed to guarantee that a fairness in lending and credit regulation. Every guarantee that was made in the original law has now been overwritten. Although this law was originally written to protect you from unfair lending practices, it has now been overwritten to benefit banks in this country. The original law, as I remember it, used to provide a maximum ceiling of 18.75% on all forms of credit, including credit cards. Now you might pay up to 38%. What was unfair and lawful in 1968 is now fair and lawful. Bills used to be accepted by the date postmark. Now are delayed until the date the payment is processed, making your payment late. So your creditor raises your interest rate and you are responsible for the payment being late. The postmark is no longer your legal date of pay. This law that was originally passed to protect our citizens against high interest rate has now become a law that has allowed banks to bypass lower interest rates and allow them to charge you up to 38% per annum. When these banks then fail to collect past due amounts because of these higher interest rates, they then claim losses when a system designed by them failed. After your credit rating was damaged and you could not get a lower interest rate loan to pay off your credit, then some people were forced to file for bankruptcy as this was their only remedy. These changes in the law, along with other changes in banking laws, allowed our mortgages to be sold on the stock market at a rate that far exceeded their market value. Economists will tell you that this was the biggest failure in the stock market since the tulip crash, where one tulip bulb was previously valued at more than the average home. However, followers of the stock market saw the sudden rise in the market value and wanted to get in on the profits to be made. Then the market crashed. Now tulip can be purchased anywhere for their true market value at only a few dollars a bulb. Later we witnessed the bailout that our bankers wanted, and although it was intended to save our citizens, and all we saw where the money went. The bailout funds were used by the banks to pay the employees bonuses for a problem they created. And again, we were robbed. This is banking at its worst. Again, they create a problem that is doomed to failure and then ask Congress to use our tax dollars to bail them out of the problem they created. Identity theft. Identity theft is a growing threat against us, and again, Congress has decided to let the banks make you responsible. Criminals go online and steal your money from the system that the banks have set up, and it becomes your fault when that system is violated. Identity theft turned the victim into the accused, and unlike any other law, you are assumed to be guilty as soon as the first fraud is discovered. The government has done nothing to protect you against this problem, and the banks are only too happy to withhold your funds until you prove that someone else is the guilty party. Energy. Foreign concerns are trying to crash our oil production in this country by lowering the price of oil, and they are succeeding, and our government needs to take action now. We are all enjoying the lower price of gas at this time. However, this is not a remedy. This temporary situation is actually a false market that will end, and the oil prices will escalate after the final collapse of the oil fields here. Who do you think will be standing buy to take over this market. This country used to have the largest oil reserve in the world, and now that reserve is diminishing and soon may disappear. We need our energy resources to endure, grow, and profit during this time from the lower price of oil and not perish. Clean energy must be used wherever possible to change the global warming effect before it is too late. Water is a natural resource that needs to be better managed. Flint, Michigan is only one example of something that should never have happened. Lead poison is a cumulative poison. Although in time it is reduced in the bloodstream, what is filtered through the brain stays in the brain, and this level can only be tested after death. We have too much water in some areas, and we suffer the lack of water in other parts of the country. We need to capture the heavy rainfalls and redirect the water to areas that need it. We need to build better watersheds and pipelines to move and control this water as it is needed in other areas and stop it from heading out into our oceans. History has shown us what the Romans accomplished moving water over 2,000 years ago, and I am sure that we can actually accomplish more today with the technology that is now available to us in this day and age. If we can move mountains, then we can move and manage water. My name is David Wallace, and I'm announcing my candidacy for President of the United States. I thank you for your time.